So for my project, I did Access and VBA. VBA is a user-friendly programming language. It's made for people who don't really know too much about programming and can use it to find many ways to help them out in their day-to-day lives. Some reasons that you might use VBA and Access over something like SQL Server is VBA is perfect for smaller teams where they can make more simplistic and quicker designs for their databases, which will in turn be functionally flawless and get the job done for what they need. Where SQL Server might take longer and just have a lot more than what they need to get their solution. VBA and Access has also been around for a long time, so there is a big community behind it. There's a lot of people who know what they're doing really well on Access. So if there's ever a problem, there's a bunch of staff and people willing to help right away for any questions, and there's forums as well that you can go and search for answers on. And along with that, with these devoted groups always pushing VBA and Access, there's new grounds every year for what the possibilities may be. So with Access being as big as it already is, it's only going to grow more, and its lifeline is just going to be a lot longer than just the near future. I have a simplistic Access sheet up right now. I only have a couple tables created, and I'm just going to kind of show you some of the basics with this. They have a nice table button that you can click, and it will give you a nice setup. And it'll have fields ready for you with some IDs and some extra things you can add. If we look at one of the fields one of the tables I've already done, we can go into the design view and look at it. We can see we have things like our primary key, our foreign keys, and their data types respectively. We made this for an employee, so we added some more random information that you might want to know about an employee, such as their name, their date of birth, and with their data types respectively. Access gives you a really easy way to do this via this table creation they have. They give you a nice little tab up here if you're new to Access. So creating this is quite simple. And once you've done that, you can actually just go in and fill in this information quite quickly. It's pretty simple to add in information, as I filled in some mock information here about random stuff. And I also made 2 other tables with just some random information too. And with this as a nice little base, you can actually get prepared to start making some queries that you might want with some of these tables together. I'm gonna jump on over to a bigger one that I have already prepared. I have 8 tables in this one, and I will pull up their relationships right here, and I'm just gonna add all the tables in. So once all these are added in, it'll create a bunch of relationships for me, and I'm just going to kind of sort this one out so it looks a little bit nicer for us to see. You don't have to do this, but it makes it really nice for when we are setting things up. And each of these things in between these lines you see are relationships that are held between each of the tables, connecting their primary and foreign keys. So these guys all allow us to use our queries, and these things all tied together really just allow us to do a bunch of cool things. If we look here, I have a couple queries already done. We can just look at this practice query, it gives me a bunch of stuff. Not really sure what it means, but if we go and look at the SQL view, we can actually see that we have just an SQL statement with two sub statements here, and it looks like it's actually looking for all the companies that supply, it looks like, seafood, which when we go back to our datasheet view, we get all these companies, where we can actually look at our suppliers to see that we have Tokyo Traders. If we can find them in here, Tokyo Traders is right here. This is their supplier ID, and if we go to the category, we have seafood, and if we look in the SQL, it goes from suppliers through products, so we can see in our products what our seafood. We take it all the way from categories, which is an 8 for seafood, send that to the products. We can see that we have, every once in a while, we have a product that is an 8. And then we look at the supplier ID for that, and we have many. For this one, for example, is a 7. So the supplier with the ID 7 is Pavlov Ltd. And we go back and we look at this, and you can see right here that they are on it. So along with this, we can do a lot more queries. This one seems to be a lot longer, and if we look at it, it seems to be a little bit more complicated of a SQL statement. And if we go really in depth with these, we can actually make something that seems to be a lot more complicated. And I'm using the Northwind database to kind of show how complicated we can go, because this one is really fine-tuned and has all the bells and whistles. We start out with this nice little form, got a bunch of buttons on it. This nice little image map here creates a nice little display, and if you click on one of these, it'll give you a nice form giving you a whole bunch of information about the table that you would have clicked on. I clicked on categories, so it tells me the category name, its description, a bunch of products, all the products within that, some information about those products, and so on. But if we look at this in the design view, we can actually see that what this is actually saying is not as complicated as we might think it is at first glance. So what we have here in design view is just a bunch of text boxes and labels which have different fields. If we click on categories, we can see the different fields are category ID, category name, and description. And closing out of that, we can see that category name is right here, description is right here, and we can see down here are some places where they were ties to other tables. So if we go back into the form view, this nice form they've set up, we can see the category name that was first presented with beverages, and if we go into category, our first category is beverages. And as we click through down here at the bottom here, we can see that they just pop up as it just reads down this list. So as we can see, some of the more things we might see at first glance that are more complicated may actually turn out to be something more simplistic, broken up into many pieces.